Thank you for tuning into another episode of Time Traveler's Handbook. Today we are going to be talking more about Doctor Who and kind of defining the universe of Doctor Who. And today we're going to be talking about elements of determinism within the Doctor Who universe. I promise this episode will not be nearly as long as the last episode. The world of Doctor Who primarily falls into the classification of fatalism, which means that you have a fate that is prescribed for you in the future, but you can change your fate by changing the timeline's trajectory, making an alternate timeline, and making that your main timeline. That may be a misuse of the term fatalism, but the point is that the universe is not particularly deterministic, which would mean that every event that happens is prescribed to happen, meaning the characters within that universe do not have free will or choice and cannot change those events. In these kinds of systems, events can't be changed without severe problems, paradoxes, and other things occurring. The Doctor Who universe is not like this, as we can see, but there are a couple of examples of deterministic elements within the universe that we can point to as part of the definition of how it truly works. Most prominently, we have key events. These are events along a timeline that are supposed to happen in a certain way based on what direction the course of the future of the main timeline is going. These events can be changed to a point, but the more severe the consequences that follow changing an event are, the more likely that it is that this will cause a paradox, implying that these events must always happen and cannot be truly changed without breaking the universe at a certain point. There seems to be some sort of a continuous scale for how severe the consequences have to be to break the universe, from a key event being changed having very little impact on the future to a key event being changed having the end of the universe as a consequence. This is a deterministic element of Doctor Who universe, but the fact that not every key event is the most severe variety shows that the system is not truly deterministic. We have a couple of time-traveling alien species that show deterministic qualities, and that's what I'll be talking about for the rest of this episode. The first one that I would like to mention is the Weeping Angels. A Weeping Angel sending someone back in time can spell the end of that person's life due to signs in the present that they have died or they have otherwise lived out their lives in the past. In some cases, you are able to avoid witnessing that kind of evidence that the victim of a Weeping Angel has lived out their life, and you can go back in time and pull them out of that situation without major repercussions. However, once they have seen an older version of themselves or someone witnesses that kind of evidence, that becomes a key event that can no longer be changed without causing a paradox, as it happens in The Angels Take Manhattan. Next, we have Quantum Shades, the creature that ended Clara's life in Face the Raven. The Shade is able to maintain a chronolock, which is basically a countdown timer that determines the time that the Shade will kill the victim. The way this behaves in the show is that there's no amount of time traveling away from that moment that you can do. The fate is sealed and it must always happen. To change that key event, as the Doctor attempts to do in Hellbent, would be to doom the fabric of time, again, causing a paradox. The last and most recent example of determinism is the Thajarian in Demons of the Punjab. These time-traveling aliens travel to the moments before a person dies alone and honors them by spreading ashes from their home planet over their body. In the episode, it's made clear that once someone has been identified to have died alone, there is no stopping the event from occurring, and thus every time this happens, it makes a severe key event that they cannot interfere with. Here, much like the Shade, the Thajarian are showing that a future event will occur and thus establishing a key event. Those are the most prominent examples of determinism, with key events occurring and being referenced throughout the entire show as having varying degrees of severity for getting them right. Next time, we're going to be talking about time loops, if they're possible, what happens when you have a time loop in Doctor Who, and some examples that we've seen from the show. As always, thank you for listening.